Hello, everyone. My name is Andy. I'm here just to give you a short presentation today on getting you going on building a business or constructing a structure, whatever it may be. If it may be a residential development or it may be a commercial enterprise. I'm just here to give you a short, few minute synopsis of what we look for in our community when before, during, and when you were after you were building your venture. First, I'd like to introduce you to what we call the three E's for fire prevention, which is education, engineering, and enforcement. And we in this community take fire prevention to the highest level. We believe that fire prevention is the way to go. Fire extinguishment is great. You need to have it. It is very important, in fact. But to us, if you don't have a fire, that's even better than having all of your abilities to put one out. So we'd like to take that route, and that's where we're going to go with this short video today, is to explain what we're looking for to get you to that step, to where hopefully in your building stage at least, we build it as safely as we possibly can. The three E's then for fire prevention, you may have heard these before, are called education, engineering, and enforcement. Education, what we look for in education is we want to teach people how to be fire safe. We use things like fire safety houses, stop, drop, and roll programs, handouts, videos, whatever we can to get young people interested in, at an early age, in fire prevention. Once, hopefully, we've got that instilled in them, they take that growing on into their later years to where perhaps you are now in the building a structure. And that education just continues right along with them. But now their education is going to be your education, basically, is learning about the fire codes and educating yourself as to what those fire codes are, how they pertain to me, and then are they the latest ones out there? Are they going to do the most for my business in trying to prevent a fire from occurring in the first place? The second E is for engineering. Engineering is where we take those building codes and we apply them. We make sure that we build our structure in accordance with those codes and that we use all the latest and greatest fire building materials out there so that, again, we don't have that fire from occurring in the first place. And then the last E is the enforcement, the one which we hope not to have to use much, but we do use it a lot. I should rephrase that. We do use fire enforcement quite a bit in our building inspections. That's our whole purpose of doing a building inspection. In fact, is to enforce the codes, to make sure the codes are being enforced not only during the pre-construction phase, but during the construction phase and the post-construction phase as well. So we want to make sure that all codes have been complied with, that all codes are in fact part of that structure. And then if we did miss anything between you or I or us, then we can go ahead and we get those back in, somehow get those back into play in that particular structure. Another thing we're going to look at real briefly is the code enforcement process that we use here. We do that again primarily through our building inspections. So you will be seeing fire inspectors frequently throughout the building process. They'll come around during pre-inspections in your meetings. They'll come around while you're building your structure, and they'll be there when your structure is finished to go over everything and make sure, again, that nothing was in fact overlooked. And then there'll be annual enforcement inspections just to go over with you on an annual basis, make sure everything's going well, and that all applicable codes are still being enforced. And any new ones will be introduced to you at that time. All new construction is expected to comply, again, with the latest codes and code changes before and during construction. Any existing businesses if we have any existing business owners out here. I do see a couple familiar faces. Any existing businesses, again, we will keep them in the loop. We go over any new building codes with them if there are any changes. And then if those changes would apply to them, either how we incorporate those changes or if in fact other means we can get by with other means. Again, and we do have a grievance process, so that anything you do not agree with, as new owners or existing, if you do not agree somehow with our inspection process or with our code enforcement, you can challenge us on that respect. And we'll go in front of an independent board. We'll make that final then determination. As per our local fire entity here, building codes are predetermined both by City Council and a local Fire Chiefs Association, which is relatively small in these parts, but it is effective. All codes are developed instead in accordance with and by federal BOCA standards, and then all codes do meet underwriters and NFPA final approval before they are instituted. Again, we do not create any new codes that are less stringent than the building codes and fire codes that are out there. If anything, our codes will be more stringent if we do need to enact a local code for fire prevention or whatever it be for. Again, they will be more stringent than the federal codes out there, not less. Two of the primary tests that are used in the process of code development are what's called the flame spread ratings test, which determines the spread rate at which a fire can be expected to grow. The ratings go from a Class A to a Class C. Class A has the greatest flame spread resistance. Class C will have the least or the lowest flame spread resistance. And another test that is used for building materials in our parts is called the heat release rate test, and that determines the rate at which a particular building material will hold on to the heat that it has captured there from that fire before it releases it. And that can help, can help slow the spread of that fire, depending on if it does have an effective heat release rate. Some tried and true building materials that we like to use. First of all, we'd love to see concrete, because that's been around for ages. It works real well. Glass works well, brick, but brick has to be just a brick by itself. If it's in a brick wall, for example, that's not as effective because what breaks down is the mortar. So the brick has to be just a single brick by itself is much more fire resistant than, say, a brick wall. And then things like fire resistant plywood, which use special additives and chemicals and adhesives to slow the spread of fire. In this fire jurisdiction, and again, we're going to be looking and accepting and using the latest fire testing and ratings determined for our building materials. We're going to do frequent inspections, and we're going to use those towards our enforcement process. And enforcement can include things such as work stoppage and work redo. We hate to get it to that point, but just occasionally it does have to be redone. But again, we will try and catch that early so that anything redone is in its early stage. But again, if we can't catch it, we hope that you will. Non-compliance can result in high fees and, of course, higher insurance premiums. City members will meet with any new business owner and go over any financial hardship from complying with these measures. Any concerns that a new business owner may have can be discussed, and the work can be resumed then as necessary and as quickly as possible. And finally, we want you to know and believe, gentlemen, that our intent is not to keep out any new business. Our intent is to keep all businesses, both old and new, staying here on a permanent basis, working together, and being here for a long time to come. Gentlemen, thank you for your time, and any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.